Welcome to the cold, hard truth on sports. I apologize in advance if I am out of line here.
Brace yourselves, boys. We're going in.
Am I hallucinating here? Just what in the hell do you think you're doing?
I can't believe you.
I'm not reading, I'm just looking at the pictures. Welcome to the cold, hard truth on sports.
Welcome to another week of the Cold Hard Truth on Sports here on the GoLong Media channel on blogtalkradio.com. Great week planned for you guys. I know this week's show is a little shorter. I actually started a little later for those that you listened live. I don't know if you noticed. Great show planned. Big stuff happened over the weekend, and actually a major press conference was held today. I was a little late coming on because I was just finishing up listening to key points of that presser, which was going to be a big part of the show. So I wanted to make sure that I got all that taken care of. But technical difficulty right here with the mic, but that's fine. We'll keep trucking along. I want to welcome in my co-host, Kevin Crest. How are you doing this evening, Kevin? Or not? Let me try it again. And there we go.
There we go.
There we go, Kevin.
Doing well. I'm assuming that the presser had to do with the indictment handed down by the federal government today against NCAA coaches. I'm assuming that's what you're talking about.
Yep.
From the basketball standpoint, is that correct?
Yep. 10 individuals arrested, 4 of them being college basketball assistant coaches. So, yeah, it's kind of one of those things. It was a probe that was launched covertly. So the NCAA had no clue of this investigation that was going on until today, to the FBI's knowledge and to the investigators' knowledge. But it's something where I think the feel was it was a matter of time before some sort of investigation like this came down and findings like this came up. And some of the coaches' names that were involved with this, it doesn't seem to, and some of the schools that were involved with this, it doesn't seem to like, oh, I don't think they were. No, it's like, yeah, either they did it before, or I could definitely see them doing it. But a lot of these coaches or conversations they got either recorded from through court documents. They were allowed to document by recording them, or through actual recorded conversations that were agreed to record the conversation and the questioning. So I haven't read the public document yet. I've heard the presser. It's about 30 minutes long, but I will this week make it a point to read the public document to kind of better understand what's going on, and then next week or in a separate podcast, I'll explain it and break it down a bit more for people. But were you surprised by this at all, Kevin?
No, the biggest surprise is it's taken so long to do to get here. I did read through some of the indictments today, by the way. I forget which website I want to attribute it to. Yeah. I believe it was the New York Times had the actual indictment, copies of the indictment that spelled out. And there's another shoe to drop here, because the indictments the documents talk about a school in Kentucky and a certain recruit, and nothing's been done as far as now. I don't know what happened tonight because you said 10 arrests. It was only 5 this afternoon, so I have a feeling that there were more arrests made later on since I was following at work.
Yeah, the presser was at
4:30,
like 12:30. It was like 12:30 Eastern time.
Yeah.
They had the presser.
Yeah. So,
and before that, only because there was 4 coaches that had been arrested, and the one other that was involved was the man with the Adidas. And again, with the official documents, they won't say the schools' names or institutions because those institutions are not part of the indictment. But as the public relations person stated today, the attorney stated today for the FBI that was conducting this investigation was that the great thing is about the internet, if you know who was indicted, you can just Google it and that you'll figure it out.
Right. And we know now, I mean, I'm not speaking out of school here. The school is Louisville. And they're in big trouble anyway. Rick Pitino's already been suspended by the ACC for the first 5 league games because of the scandal that happened with the prostitutes and strippers and whatever that were brought in for recruits. Yes, but you know, here's the thing. And you and I have talked about this before. I've talked about this on my other show with Lou in the Morning that I do with Lou Vickery every Friday morning. I'll tell you what the problem is from my perspective is the money. The money is so massive. It's so big. And when you have money, you have corruption. When you have corruption, you have scandal. And when you have scandal at this degree, you have heads that are going to roll. And from my perspective, and I'm a big sports fan, you know that. I'm a sports journalist. But I absolutely believe that the money in college athletics has gotten out of control. And somebody, and it's not the NCAA because the NCAA is reaping their own benefits, right? They have people making $600,000 a year doing virtually nothing. And so the NCAA is complicit in this. They're part of it. And you know, I've said this before. You know my views on this. And I've said it in my blog. I've written about this. The NCAA needs to be blown up, done away with, and somebody has to come in with some sense of control and get this thing under control because it is out of control. There's too much money. The shoe companies, the salaries, the money, it is absolutely out of control at the college level. And when you have coaches making $5, $6, $7, $8, $9, $10 million a year, I'm sorry, something's wrong with the system. It's broken. And I do not fault the players whatsoever. The recruits, the players from trying to get theirs because they look at the coaches and they go, wait a second, they're getting theirs. I'm the product. And they're not paying me. It would be like Tom Cruise making $10,000 for a movie and the director making $20 million. Right? That's not how that works.
Yeah.
The talent makes the money. The only place where the talent doesn't make the money is in college athletics.
Well, the argument is the talent in college sports, the only consistent talent that's there each and every year is the coaching.
Oh, that's a fallacy. You know it. It's a story that's given to propagate and to continue the status quo. It's a story and a line given to prop up their own values. The fact of the matter is, and we've said this before on this show, are you telling me that Nick Saban wouldn't coach college football for $1.5 million a year? $1 million a year? The guy only knows one thing. It's to coach football. Are you telling me he can't coach it for $1 million a year? Over 40 years, he'd make $40 million? Are you telling me he wouldn't do that? It's ridiculous. I don't buy it. I don't buy it for a second. I haven't bought it forever. And I think it's time for a readjust. We were watching college football when coaches were making $200,000 a year, and they were still coaching, and players were still playing. So I think it's out of control.
I vaguely remember
great thing. I think it's a great thing.
In the early '90s, just before his Tom Osborne's second to last contract, I want to say it was around like $250,000 or something like that. Something like that. And I remember people being like, yeah, just pay him. People didn't care. He won. But still, some were like, God, that's so much money. But Nebraska's always been one of those schools that it's not taxpayer funded. So it's all through boosters and ticket sales.
None of them are.
Yeah. So
Nick Saban's salary from the state of Alabama is something like $280,000. I don't have it in front of me. You can it's all in that public record. You can find it. I know Brett Bielema, University of Arkansas, whose salary is somewhere in the $4 million range. The taxpayers in the state of Arkansas only pay him about $250,000 a year, if that. Okay, so this isn't taxpayer money. This is private money funding this. This is rabid fans putting up a lot of money in foundations to pay these guys. And frankly, I'll probably be criticized for this. I think it's wrong. Wrong when the kids are putting their at this point almost lives on the line, right? Because we know what CTE is now. We know what all that happens. We had we had a guest on earlier in the year, Elise Steinberg, talking about this. We've seen the brain studies. We know what happens. There was a play in the game.
We've had David Hum. David Hum. He's been on a couple times. He's a former Raiders quarterback. He actually has CTE,
right?
And he's one of the athletes that are supposed to be awarded in the settlement.
So we know that these young men are putting their lives literally on the line, and they get, okay, I get it, the college scholarship thing. That is so far done. I mean, we got to get past that, right? I mean, I've done the math. I even blogged about it. I think you did as well.
Mm-hmm.
If you take the coaching staff's salary back to a reasonable level, you can literally pay players a reasonable amount that would give them something to put away when they're done with college. Put it in a trust fund. I don't care. Don't make them graduate. I don't care. I'm fine with that. They would have something for their effort. But my gosh, when you've got these coaches making millions and millions and millions of dollars a year, and they're riding the backs of these young men, it makes no sense to me. And I think this is the tip of the iceberg, Matthew. This is the tip of the iceberg, especially in college basketball, because at the lower levels, AAU, right? They drive all this talent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of money going on there, right? That's not even supervised. That's not even. There's no organization overseeing that aspect of it. And then you got the one and done. The people that are listening that haven't understood what exactly the indictments are for. At the end of the day, these assistant coaches are accused. Now, I'll still say accused because they're innocent until proven guilty. Are accused of taking money to steer athletes to particular agents and to particular shoe contracts. That's the essence of it, right? There's a Charles Person at Auburn has a little bit more complicated stuff going on, but at the end of the day, they're being paid by the shoe companies and the agents to funnel to steer athletes towards particular agents, right? That's the essence of it. It's money laundering, it's fraud, there's a number of different charges there. So you got to figure if you got four guys how many are there really that are doing this, right? Because it was Oklahoma State, USC.
Now, the
Arizona,
investigation hasn't concluded. They've arrested 10.
Right.
And they've been indicted. Okay, obviously 10. There's been 10 arrests. They've charged 10 people. 4 of them being assistant coaches. Now, we can't forget that it was a covert operation. Now it's not. It's out in the open. So the NCAA knows.
Right.
So U.S. Attorney said that they will go talk to the NCAA now. It says since in this article here, it says since 2015, the FBI has been investigating the criminal influence of money on coaches and players in the NCAA. Federal authorities said. So this was I don't know if this was one of the articles you were talking about, but this is actually CBS New York that was reporting this, and it was a part of that presser too. So I'll get that over to you too, so you can see that too. But it's not like this probe was just they did it for like a year or something. It's been ongoing, prolonged, because it is an issue, because I don't know, it comes back to the regulation. I think there has to be some sort of reform in the regulation of college athletics. I don't think the athletes should be paid, and I do, however, think that they should be able to make money off their likeness, even if it's held in escrow or wherever you want to hold it until after they graduate, if that's the rule. By the way, I heard today the quarterback, what's his name? Quarterback of SC, Sam Darnold. He does a podcast, by the way. He does a podcast. I don't know if he, again, it was strange that I heard it was mentioned today on the radio on the top number, between number 1 and 3, depending on the months, sports radio show in the country. He said he had a podcast. Now, I don't know if he monetizes it. I'm assuming he doesn't. And if he does, it's in a way that he's not going to lose his scholarship and his ability to play. I know that Donald De La Hayes lost his ability. Again, he's a kicker. He wasn't probably one of the most sought-after quarterbacks in the country. But still, nonetheless, he was a kicker. He used his likeness to make some money off YouTube by monetizing through Google and through Google AdSense. He made a couple $1,000s. He refused to give it back. He gave up his potential to play because of the way he structured his business. Now, I don't know if it's Sam Darnold's situation. Maybe he's just talking on. Maybe he's just doing a podcast for fun. I don't know. But nonetheless.
Let me ask you something, Matthew. Because, you're younger. You're a lot younger than me. And I'm not even sure if you remember when Olympic athletes were, quote unquote, purely amateur. There was no money. And I remember back in the 80s when this was all being discussed, that the Olympic movement was like, oh, it's Armageddon. If we pay our Olympic athletes, the whole system will crumble. It will be terrible. Not the case, right? Look at it today. I mean, you have Michael Phelps, a multimillionaire from what he's done. You have the swimmers making money. You have track athletes making money. You have people, the pro soccer players are playing on their soccer teams. What's the problem? If the free market says somebody's worth paying, somebody's worth making money, Why do you think the system's going to crumble? It is not. I mean, the money's there. I mean, obviously the money is there. My issue is the money's not being distributed properly. That the money's being distributed to the people that can make it. It's an artificial system. If I'm 18 years old and I have a college scholarship and I'm a world-class violin player and I have a college scholarship, I can still play in the symphony orchestra in my town and get paid for it and don't lose my scholarship. Now, how the hell is that different than a running back or a quarterback or a defensive back who can then make some money off my name? I'm not talking about getting paid to play on the field, but if I have my own radio broadcast and the marketplace says people will listen, advertisers will pay, why can't I make that money?
You want the simple answer, or do you want the long answer?
Well, I want your simple answer because I don't understand how you can prohibit.
The only difference is the balance sheet. That's it.
Is what?
The balance sheet. That's it. One, you're paying the talent to endorse your product in the commercial. The other one, you're not. That's the only difference. The balance sheet. Are you having hired talent or not hired talent?
Here is,
that's the only difference.
My point here is,
and how, and again, that's where it comes back is to needing to be able to go back and re-look at again why I wasn't for college athletes unionizing, but in this sense, this is what unions would normally help do, is be able to sit down and have someone represent the student athletes with intelligent conversation of what their rights are as citizens, as players, and collectively bargain it. You can't collectively bargain something because as a student athlete, you have no rights under the current system. In essence, you don't have a right to earn income off your likeness. You're not allowed to take gifts.
I'm not just advocating here, Matthew. I want to make sure you understand where my view here is.
Yeah,
I'm not even advocating that the universities have to pay the student athletes, because they are actually paying them because they're giving them an education for free.
Yes.
My disconnect cognitively is that they can't even make money independent of their service to the university. In other words, like if Sam Darnold can go on, I don't care what it is, whether it's a local radio station, ESPN, Fox Sports, if he can go on that network and they'll pay him money because commercially they're selling advertising and it's worth, there's value in the marketplace. People listen to him talk about what he does. I mean, to me, that's a violation of his rights as a citizen. Where's the NCAA get off telling him he can't do that?
You know, I wonder if there's an angle on labor laws, because I mean, labor laws are pretty blunt on public appearances and what you can do and cannot do. They've limited practices to 20 hours a week, 20 hours of time of practice and team related stuff. So I'm wondering if he's doing a 15-minute segment with Cowherd or with Facina, is that his name? Facina, in New York on WFAN, Fusina. If he's doing these spots, or with ESPN or whatever, are they taking those minutes off of time that he's spending with coaches, or is it time that he's practicing? I'm really not confused, because that's a team-related activity. And by the way, they do require these athletes to be a part of signing events. The bigger the athlete you are, you have to go to more children's hospitals. You have to go to to more special occasions, to be on more floats, to be in more parades, to speak at other events, high schools and stuff like that, paraded around, and them making money or goodwill in the sense of franchise. It is valuable. Goodwill is considered valuable, a value proposition. Spreading goodwill of these schools and institutions and programs. I just wonder. I don't know if is there. I wonder if there's a labor law angle. Can they work and do these things?
No, there's not.
Again, I know it's strictly voluntary, but I guess I mean. Again, not again. We're not trying to litigate this here, but the thing is, college athletes are utilized by their schools and the NCAA.
They're exploited. They're exploited by their schools, and why is it really? Why is it the only people in the entire system, and I'm talking the entire college athletic system, the only people not making money are the athletes and the trainers and the student.
Wait, when you say money, what do you mean by money? You mean cash, right?
Well, they're the only ones that aren't able to monetize their situation outside of the playing field. If Nick Saban,
in a sense, student athletes do because they do get stipends.
Hear me out. But they can't. But Matthew.
No, the new provisions allow for stipends to be used outside of campus.
Yes, I know. So they get $100 a month. But what I'm saying is,
or you could do what the was it 9 Florida athletes did and commit fraud.
Hear me out here.
Yeah.
Hear me out here, though. Just let me finish my thought because this is important. So, I step on campus. I'm a 5-star recruit. I step on campus, no matter what campus it is. Right?
Okay.
I can't sign an endorsement contract. I can't drive a car from a car dealership. I can't bank on my own notoriety and fame. Right? 6 games into the season, I have a career-ending knee injury. I'm just saying, right? I'm done. They might honor my scholarship. They don't even have to.
No. But the insurance will pay out.
But if I could, well, maybe so, but that's a whole different issue. But why can't a star athlete benefit from being a star athlete, no matter what level they're in? This is so 1970s. We got to get beyond this. And the reason, my point here is that this has spawned this particular scandal in college basketball right now. Because if the players could benefit directly, you wouldn't have all this. There would be no need for these assistant coaches to be bribed because the athletes themselves would be benefiting. There would be none of this. And let's get over ourselves here. I think there's a really good need for college sports because you don't want an 18-year-old going right to the NFL because you're going to get killed. They're getting killed anyway, and they're going to get killed earlier if you step on the football field. So why is it that Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson, for that matter, at Louisville, Heisman Trophy winner last year, why can't he be making commercials? He could go on the football field this Saturday.
He can make commercials.
He get nailed.
And he just can't get paid for it.
And no, he can't. He
can't
get paid for him.
Yeah, get paid for him.
That's ridiculous, Matthew. That's patently unfair. That's patently not right. And that kind of behavior, the only guys making money, I mean, the only guys not being able to benefit from their own fame are the athletes themselves. We're not asking the university to pay them. I'm not even asking the university to pay the athletes. Just let them benefit from their own fame. Christian Pulisic, and we can bring soccer in here, just turned 19 years old. Okay? He happens to be playing professional soccer. He's making whatever it is, $32 million. He gets commercials, endorsement deals. How is he different than a 19-year-old sitting on a college? And by the way, the NFL won't even take them until they're 3 years out of high school. So the deck is stacked against these young men. It is stacked.
This is why I said the NBA, specifically the NBA, needs to go to it goes to a soccer model, the U16, U17, U18, U19, which they already do. FIBA actually has those set up. The AAUs just make so much money, and they're so inner city based and making money for people within the community. They just stick with them, and they can recruit kids from all over the world to play there. They don't have the same regulations and rules. You know, we could start an AAU team tomorrow if you wanted to. It's not a lot. There's not a lot of red tape involved with it.
You know what's going to come out of this, Matthew? And this is where it's going. This is going to end in some serious conspiracy indictment. You're going to have people showing collusion. And if I'm Adam Silver at the NBA, I better prepare myself legally for the fallout of this.
Yeah.
Because you're going to see the collusion between AAU, college, and the NBA. Why have 1 year? What is magic about 1 year, Matthew? There's nothing magic about 1 year.
Nothing.
The biggest stars in the NBA in the last 20 years all came out of high school. Kobe Bryant, Dwight Howard, Tracy McGrady, Kevin Garnett, LeBron James. They all came right out of high school. What the heck was wrong with that? They went to a different model because it was a better way for people to get paid to exploit these young players for a year and then steer them in a different direction. This is a big deal. This is like kryptonite to college basketball and potentially the NBA and the AU structure. I hope 10,000 guys get indicted. I hope this blows up the system because the people being exploited are the athletes themselves, and they are the ones, when they're 19 years old, 18 years old, they have no recourse. They're not allowed to do anything, and I think it's bad. I think it's hideous. It's criminal, and we've just shown. This is the tip. This iceberg is so much bigger than the one that sunk the Titanic, and if the Titanic is organized basketball in this country, that hole is going to be ripped open and it's going to sink just the same way because it is time. It is time to peel the onion. It is time to open the curtain. It is time to expose what is a racket. And it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. And I think it's time because what we're doing is we're limiting the rights of the very people that are on the floor making plays, and we're cheering on every Tuesday and Saturday night in college basketball. And they have no right. They got nothing. And I think it's wrong. Come on. Nobody's telling you and I we can't monetize ourselves. Why is this arbitrary? Oh, you can't monetize yourself till you're 19, and you break your leg in the second game of the freshman season, you're done? Hell, that's not right. There's no logic to that. There might have been logic 40 years ago when there was no money in the game, right? It was the scholarship was all it was, and your coach was making $30,000 a year. I get that, but this is 2017. So when you look at the balls, all of you go, "Oh my gosh, good for you guys."
Okay, I'm going to read.
Make all you can because
I'm going to read a list of some names. All right. Jabari Abdur Rahim. This is 2020. Kyrie Walker, Isaiah Todd, Jared Springer, Jamin Bakerfield. There's the top 5 for 2020. 2019. RJ Barrett. Charles.
They're freshmen in high school, right?
Yes. But what I'm talking about, this is why. Is the top 5 there, top 5 2019. Watch this, 2017. These are commits. Wendell Carter Jr., right? Wendell Carter Jr. committed to Duke, center forward. He'll be a top 5 pick in the draft. Michael Porter Jr., again, Missouri, shooting guard. I think I've seen Cavs jersey already, where they're imitated Cavs jersey. DeAndre Ayton, Arizona, commit. He'll be a top 5. Muhammad Bamba, Texas. He'll be top 5. I mean, Trevon Duvall, Duke, point guard. And my point is, I could go to these future lists, these Nike future lists, and I could just look at the top 5, top 10 guys there, and that's probably going to be the top 5, top 10 guys in the draft following their first year of college. It's fairly freakishly consistent. That's why I said the 2020. Those top 10 kids in 2020 are going to be some of the top 5 draft picks in the NBA. And if that's freshmen, so junior, senior, 21, 22, 23, like 25. 2020, 2025, they will be in the top 5 of the NBA draft. I'm just saying it's freakishly similar. So the reason that is because they don't have enough tape on them. They're not developed enough. So the NBA is bringing in more players that developmental but don't have a developmental process. This is why the NBA, specifically the NBA, needs to go with this U16, U17 system like soccer because and set up their developmental team that way, because this way what they can do is they can team up with AAU but keep it under the NBA umbrella. And if they don't want to go to college, they don't have to go to college, and they can make money through that whole process because it's allowed. It's not.
Yeah, but the AAU, but the AAU system is crooked. It's ramped with corruption.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. But that's the thing is about the AAU teams. If they wanted to get involved with that, and those teams wanted to be a part of NBA developmental basketball, U15, U16, U17, whatever, then they have to go by those rules. So they'll have to change their model from AAU to NBA U. So NBA, NBA D, NBA developmental. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's why it will work so well for basketball. Yeah. Now, football is a different story. The NFL, the game of football is.
Let me back up the truck. Back up the truck for a second. FIFA isn't exactly a great model of non-corruption. Okay?
No, it's not. But that's at the that's the top administrative levels, and that's usually between the administration and where the stuff's hosted. It really doesn't decide the games. I haven't seen anything that come down.
Oh, sure it does.
Where it has decided games.
Oh, come on! Do you watch soccer, Matthew?
I watch soccer.
Terrible. The officiating is terrible. It's terrible.
Has there been any investigation that has shown that there was corruption in the referees with FIFA?
Money corrupts, and FIFA is the richest sport in the world, right? I mean, money corrupts, and we're finding it now. Is that the money corrupts, and college basketball has way too much money. And you know what? I'm not exactly going to keep CBS off the hook here, right? They're $1 billion, to fund the NCAA tournament. Guess where that money goes? It goes to the NCAA, and they get to decide where that goes. You know, you can catch my drift here. I mean, I love the action. I love the devotion and the passion of the student athletes. But man, are they getting shafted because everybody else is making money and they're not, and that's wrong. That's all I can say. And we're seeing it. We're seeing it play out right now.
Well, here's the thing:
that this federal investigation, investigation will.
But in order for the schools, again, schools. There's only 20. I think I was like, when I did that research, there's 20-some schools that can afford to pay the football team alone. Title IX says they have to pay for all of them. So what you have to drastically do, you have to reduce the sports that are available.
You didn't hear me. No, you didn't hear me. No, you didn't listen to me, Matthew. I'm not asking the schools to pay. I'm asking for the athletes themselves to be able to monetize themselves outside of their scholarship. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I understand.
There's 50 guys on the field who are, and by the way, my nephew's a walk-on at Arkansas. He's a walk-on at Arkansas. And he's going to practice every day and doing the same thing up the scholarship guys are. He's getting nothing. Okay? So I get that. What I'm saying is the guys who can monetize themselves should be allowed to monetize themselves. That's what they should be allowed to do. And they're not being allowed to do it. And that's wrong. Yes, for 75% of the guys on the field, that scholarship is gold. And they will play for the scholarship. And that's fine. And I think that's a good thing because that's worth anywhere from $100,000 to $500,000, depending on the school they're in, right? Mm-hmm. And they're getting stipends now. I get that. I'm good with that. What I'm not good with is we don't even allow the guys that are really that have star power to be able to monetize themselves early in their career, and they're jeopardizing injury. What about the guy from Notre Dame? Now he finally got back on the field with the Cowboys this week. That guy was superstar. If he could have signed endorsement deals when he was in college, and he got injured in the bowl game, okay, that's fine. He could have made money. We didn't allow him to do that, and that's an artificial rule. That's an NCAA rule. That's not a law. That's an artificial constraint placed on the student athletes by the NCAA. There's no law that says I can't do a TV commercial and still play college football on Saturday afternoons. And I want to ask you, where's the logic in that, Matthew? Why is that? What logic is there that says, oh, you signed your letter of intent and now you have to be an amateur because by signing the letter of intent and getting a scholarship, you're actually no longer an amateur in the true sense of the word because you're getting compensated. So why aren't we allowing them to get compensated for anything? Who cares? Who really cares about that? What difference does it make? If Sam Darnold gets $175 for his appearance on a radio show, who really cares? What difference does it make? That's my point. Okay? Especially when you're saying that they can't even go to the NFL for 3 years. You're limiting their monetization.
Well, that's the NFL's rule.
That's not fair.
That's the NFL's rule. It's not college football's rule.
But the NCAA complies. It is. But the NCAA complicates the matter by going, not only that, I'll tell you something, Matthew. We were at a restaurant a few years ago with a scholarship athlete at the University of Arkansas, a football player. And he did not travel with the team that week because he was redshirting, but he was still a scholarship. And it was pouring down rain. And we're boosters, we're supporters, we're season ticket holders at Arkansas. I could not even give that young man a ride to his dorm in the pouring rain because of NCAA regulations. Now, you tell me something. How ridiculous is that? that I couldn't even give an
Are
act
you
of
sure?
mercy.
Are you sure you couldn't give him a ride?
No, I could not. We looked it up. I could not give him. It was an improper benefit because we were boosters for the university. It was an improper benefit. Now you tell me.
But the argument isn't.
What sense that makes?
But that's the thing is like, what makes it improper? That you're a booster and he's a student athlete?
Improper benefit.
Wouldn't they have to establish that there's preconceived intent of you doing it because he's a student athlete?
No, they don't. No, we've heard these stories before. What about the coach? What about the coach who wanted to fly the kid to a funeral for a relative of his? He couldn't do it. It's improper benefit.
But that's a different thing.
I believe that the end.
See, that's the thing is like the NCAA needs to clear up a lot. Again, there needs to be deeper look at how things are being utilized. How is it irrelevant?
They're irrelevant. They're irrelevant. They're irrelevant when it comes to the major sports. If they want to deal with scheduling and deal with putting on the championships and do all that kind of stuff. When it comes to regulating the sports themselves, they're irrelevant now because time has changed. The money's bigger, things are bigger, the exposure is bigger. They can't handle it. If they want to actually establish and schedule the championships and all that kind of stuff, the athletics part of the field, I'm all for it. Good for you. Go do that. But when it comes to these regulating what an athlete can or cannot do and what a school can or cannot do relative to the athlete, they are in over their head right now, and they're screwing it up. They're making it worse. Because I got to tell you, I mean, we see athletes get injured every week, and they're banking they're betting on the come. They're betting on after their time, but nobody's giving them a chance to monetize themselves while they're there. So the Olympics movement at it. We had the same conversation 30 years ago. Oh my gosh, the sky is falling. The Olympic movement will be terrible. Olympics will be terrible.
Mm-hmm.
We can't allow athletes to make money. That's a bunch of BS. You know that now, right? We've gotten way past that. Look how great the Olympics are. They really are. They're compelling. You got the greatest athletes in the world, swimming and running and all that stuff. It's great. What harm is there in a student athlete making some money? I don't get it. I just really don't get it. I'm not asking universities to pay the violinist to play in the school band, but if he wants to go out on Saturday night and make money playing keyboards at a bar with a band, he gets to do that. And he doesn't lose his scholarship.
But here's the thing: is my issue with not allowing someone to monetize their likeness. I mean, how should they be able to control that? See, that's my argument. The likeness thing. That's their likeness. So many courts have ruled. We've ruled in courts that you cannot own someone's gratitude. So, like in the world of social media. So, if I make, let's say, I build a website, I build a Facebook page, I do Instagram and Snapchat for Bob's Sandwich Shop, right? And it does great. Me and Bob, we part ways. He has his things. I turn it over to him. Now, I can't say, listen, the likes that I got and the follows I got for you on social media are proprietary. They're intellectual property of mine because that's someone's gratitude. Somebody made a decision. Whether I influenced it or not, he paid me as a part of the process to influence them. Now, with someone, that's what I'm saying, with someone's likeness, whether you're a university or not, we see that these student athletes have likeness before you. Everybody has their own likeness. How can you take somebody's individualism and say that you cannot monetize that? It's up to that person. That's like saying that you can't use this water fountain or you can't drink here. I get that you cannot get paid cash to be played like an employee. I get that because it is an amateur sport, and the closest they can get to paying you is giving you some stipends for essentials and stuff here, but not allowing them again. The worry behind it is that too many schools can take uneven advantages. But even with that, if you're NCAA, you can't, and schools can't give this bullshit, and I'm calling it bullshit argument, unfair advantage. Okay, tell me this. If it's an unfair advantage because you think boosters are going to pay these kids millions of dollars to come to that school, promising that we'll do commercial advertisements and you can sell your likeness for millions there. If you think that's such a big problem, then tell me, why isn't the academics universal? Why isn't it that? I mean, Notre Dame, Stanford have much harder times getting student athletes to come there because you have to meet the academic standards. Why aren't the academic standards consistent across the board? And just to bring up something Jim Harbaugh talked about, why isn't there a minimum standard for visiting teams' locker rooms? Fair. I mean, he was just talking about Vanderbilt.
Unfair playing field, yeah.
And Purdue, they didn't even have an air conditioner. They didn't have air conditioning in the visiting locker room. That's Bush League. Like, why aren't there minimums? And again, in the NFL, they can't do that. There's a standard. You provide a minimum standard for everybody. They didn't have an X-ray machine, so the quarterback got hurt. They had to ship him out of the stadium to get X-rays done, or go to the home locker room.
I'm not for carte blanche here, right? Because, for instance, I believe that the university owns those uniforms. Yeah. Okay, that's not the student athlete's uniform. That's the university. But all I'm asking is for the person, the individual, whoever it is, to be able to have their own ability to make money off their own activity outside of the playing field. I'm not asking the university to pay. The stipend piece, I think, went a long way. Not for the star athletes, okay, because the star athletes are. But I'm talking about for the there's just 85 scholarship players on a college football team. For the 75 that aren't stars, or the 78 or 80, right? The stipend went a long way towards evening the playing field because at least it let them be on par with the rest of the student population, right? Because if you're from a poverty-stricken family and you get a scholarship, you're not getting $150 a month from your mom and dad to go to McDonald's, right? You're not getting that, right? So I think that the stipends were a big positive for most of those kids. But
all players get the stipend for food for travel. By the way, all players do.
No, I know, it's great. I think the stipends, and actually it's not called stipends. It's called they're now getting full cost of attendance, right? Which they're taking into consideration the fact that room, board, and tuition.
No, I'm talking about
room, board.
I'm talking about
cover everything.
I'm talking about when you travel, like you get a stipend. You get like it's called bean cash or something like that, and essentially it's just it's X amount of dollars that is allocated for each player when you go on the road to buy food with. That's all it is. Every player gets it because when you're on the road, it's not like they pack you a lunch, So you get X amount of dollars. And I remember, and I went to a D1 JUCO. I mean, some games would be 15, some would be 50. It kind of depended how far we went and where we were. It changed. It shouldn't have. I don't know what was involved in the back end of it. I didn't ask. I was a walk-on. So whatever the hell they were going to give me, I was going to take.
Well,
you know.
Well, I'm talking about the fact that a couple of years ago the NCAA allowed student athletes to get scholarship athletes to get
full cost of attendance,
which
exactly,
which makes a big difference, right? But what I'm talking about here is I think it's a violation of somebody's basic right as an individual to be able to make money on who I am and what I do, right? I mean,
that's the definition of exploitation.
Now, I'm not talking. I am not. See, the world has changed, right? You know, the world has changed. This is where the NCAA is behind on this. Is at one point in time, the only way to make money was for a booster to pay you, right? I'm not talking about that at all. That's a differentiation. I want to make people understand. I'm differentiating between somebody paying you or bribing you, in essence, to come to a particular school. I'm talking about people being allowed to benefit from their own fame, notoriety, likeness, whatever that is, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not talking about somebody a car dealership being able to give you a car to get you to come in. This is where the NCAA, in times past, that's why these rules existed. I get it. I totally get why they did, but they're outdated. You got to come up with a better way. If I can go on a network and make money, that's not a booster paying me to go to a particular school. That's not an improper benefit. That's me benefiting from my own fame, and that's why we've got to blow it all up. Got to blow it all up, right? And try to figure out how to put it all back together in a reasonable way so that people can actually these athletes can benefit from who they are. This is a case where, by the way, in most cases, from the indictments, athletes didn't get the full share of this, right? They got a little bit, right? The university funneled money through Adidas, right, and then they gave it to the families, and which coerced people to go to a certain institution. That's all bad. I'm not advocating that any of this was good, but if Sam Darnold can get on a radio show and people will pay him money, or you can do a podcast, or you can do something and sell advertising. I'm not talking about before they get there. I'm talking about once they're on campus, right? That's where I think we can differentiate this, right? Is to say, okay, go where you want to go, but if you absolutely have a killer like Lamar Jackson at Louisville, week 5 of last year, that guy was golden, right? We saw it. The guy was incredible. He hasn't seen a dime, and he won't. And by the way, that guy is probably the least likely guy to make it to the NFL because he's another Johnny Manziel, another Robert Griffin Jr. The guy's going to get snapped like a twig when he gets to the NFL. He just is. We know it. Why can't he make his money when he's hot? Why not? Figure out a way. I mean, I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but there's got to be a way to figure out a way for that guy to make some money.
There's an article in Forbes a little while back that actually talked to, and I'd like to see some more on this, to find out what is the market value of one of these athletes. What's his market value? I mean, someone somewhere knows it, and there has to be a chart somewhere that somebody keeps track of this. They have to know what it is. Otherwise, schools wouldn't run those athletes out there,
right.
The article I was looking at, it was a Forbes article. It's saying, so if you take like the NBA starters, and this is back, I think, it was 2014, so it's a couple years old. So the average starter in the NBA would make around, about average 5% of the revenue. That's about what he made. So the average ACA,
That's right. The team as a whole, makes what? The players make what? 53% of the revenue in the NBA.
Something like that.
The 53.
Yeah, 53, 56, something like that. Now the average ACC starters value would be around $500,000. All right. Now that kind of it's crazy because if you go to football and you're looking at Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, they're valued around 4, 5, 6 million a year. So how do you value that in college? This article didn't really describe it. They went to like a Sun Belt school, like Western Kentucky. The value of their quarterback would fall around $170,000, and a star basketball player, a starter, would be around $70,000. So it's scaled per school, what their value is. Now, being able to have valuation charts and stuff like that is important. Now, I think, again, if we take it, if it's something that, again, I'm not huge on more government, more regulation, and the places that regulation is needed is where there is not a self-regulating system that works. And this indictment, 10 arrests, an ongoing investigation that started, again, covertly years ago, multiple years ago, and that is continuing not covertly anymore. I think it's high in time that we look at how money is generated in college sports, and the athletes, how they can monetize their likeness, and that's the biggest argument that I have for them. If you have a value, if they have a value, and Adidas knows that value, stop funneling money to the student's family. Put it in a trust or an escrow or something like that. If that's what the rule is. See, I could even live with that. I could live with, you're making this amount of money, but you can't touch it till after you leave school. That's a good proposition.
I'm okay with that.
That's a good proposition.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Should they be able to get it right now?
I'm okay with that.
Yes, but they should be able to put it in a trust.
Let me throw some money around. Let me just throw some money around here, right? So, a university has a 75,000 seat stadium, plays 7 home football games. Price is $80, okay, which is probably low, but we'll just give them the benefit of the doubt. Their revenue alone from ticket sales, okay, is $42 million. That's from ticket sales. That's not even talking about contributions, advertising, concessions, everything else, right, that they have coming in from their program. $42 million, okay? That's a lot of money. Now, you divide that by 85 scholarship players. That's $500,000 a player they're generating, okay? The scholarship is worth, depending on the university, I'm going to say your normal just public university, state-supported school, it's probably $25,000 to $30,000. So the university is making off every single athlete on the football field. These are the top programs now. And not everybody has 75,000 seat stadiums, but whatever. They're making $450,000 per scholarship athlete. Now, if that doesn't scream exploitation, I don't know what does. That's just pure math, Matthew. That's not anything.
Yeah,
that's just business guy talking here.
As long as there's no expenses involved, your math is dead on.
What other industry, from a gross margin, I'm just talking about gross margin labor perspective, is where their labor expense is 5% of their revenue.
Human trafficking, probably?
It's ridiculous. Yeah, human trafficking, perhaps. So my point, case closed. And by the way, that's just from ticket sales. I didn't even include concessions, parking, contributions to the foundation, which is double that, right? It's essentially double that. So
subsidies.
And I'm not even advocating paying the players out of that. I'm just advocating letting the guys that can, in fact, make some money.
I think what we need to do.
What do you have to lose?
What we need to do is we need to separate the athletic department from the education. So separation of school and athletic.
Well, they are.
No.
They are, Matthew. And they actually are in most of these cases. They absolutely are. My wife works for the University of Arkansas. She's a fundraiser for academics. She works for the libraries. Okay. Before that, she was the annual giving. There is absolutely a total separation of academics versus athletics in terms of fundraising. Now, the foundation
fundraising. But let me finish. As far as subsidies go, there should be $0 in subsidies, tax subsidies that are allowed for athletics. 0.
Yeah,
unless
on the larger,
the municipality owns or has vested interest in the use of the stadium. Again, because you're having public use of that. Okay. So I'm saying other than that.
Paying taxes. Yeah. But you got that. In fact, you've got the people that are actually, a portion of their salaries is paid by the state just because they're quote unquote state employees. But at the bigger schools, the Power 5 schools, the rich ones, of course, I'm using an outlying example of 75,000 seat stadiums, but I'm talking about the big programs.
And that's honestly, it's really, to be honest, for those of you who are listening, 75,000 seats.
That's what we're talking about, because
those are major universities.
Because guys, because listen, guys at the MAC schools, and I'm a MAC fan, but they don't generally have guys that can monetize themselves. They're just there, and they're getting good education. That's good. I'm just talking about the what is it? There's 60 Power 5 teams. There's probably 2 or 3 guys on each team, right? Alabama has more. USC probably has more because of where they are. Texas has more. You got
29,000.
There, those 60 schools.
This is 29,013. Okay, that's for the University of Buffalo.
Let's just say you have 300 or 400 guys in college football that could make some money off themselves while they're in college. But you've also got other things. You got appearance fees. You got people who just pay for. We've got to get over this people getting a competitive advantage based on athletes making money, because I watched a defensive back for Virginia Tech on Saturday came down wrong after interceptions. He may never play again, right? And I'm sure he should have had an opportunity to make some money while he was in college. and it didn't. It wasn't able to. I think that's unfair. I'm just saying it's unfair.
I mean, wouldn't it? Let me ask you this: don't you think it would be more fair if they did allow them to make money? Because again, the market would determine their value and how much they would get.
Absolutely, totally fair. Absolutely, it's totally fair because the market would dictate it. The only sport in this country, really the big time sport that isn't market dictated, actually two, college football and college basketball. They're not market dictated. They're artificial because the top coaches are making $3, $4, $5 million, and that's not what the market dictates. They can command it, but the market dictates it because the market isn't paying their labor, right? I mean, what other business? And I know you're a business guy. I am too. What other business allows you not to have to pay your labor a market rate, right? I just showed it that based on revenue that
nonprofits, but even your administration gets paid at market rates for administrative positions for the most part.
Right. If I'm an administrative assistant for the Red Cross in your town, Tampa, I'm still going to get paid what the administrative assistant gets paid at the bank because it's the same job. I'm going to get paid market rate, right?
Yeah.
But in college football, I get a scholarship. I get a stipend. I get the cost of attendance. That's not a market rate. That's dictated by the NCAA that says I can only pay you what it costs to go to school there.
Like for example, let's use the Red Cross. Your example, the CEO of the Red Cross, Gail McGovern, her base salary is $500,000.
There you go.
That's her base salary. Is that wrong? No. Because
no. And I'm sure she earns a hell out of it.
Exactly.
I'm sure she does.
Because a lot of people hear that and say, "Oh, I shouldn't get that," But what do CEOs go of major international organizations? That's, $500,000 is on the cheap for a CEO.
And a college football coach think about what the Red Cross does as an organization.
Yeah.
The value they provide the world, right? She's making $500,000.
Yep.
Brett Bielema, who can barely field a winning team in Arkansas. I'm sorry, he's under 500 in his career here at Arkansas. He's making $3.5 million. I'm sorry.
4.1.
Wrong with that, Matthew.
4.1 is where they have Matt now.
4.1. Something's wrong with that picture. He's adding no value to anybody. She's adding a lot of value to a lot of people through her leadership. He's making 8 times what she is. He pretty much sucks at what he does for the most part. I mean, he's okay. And I shouldn't say this because I'm an Arkansas person, but he's not delivering.
There might be torches outside that. If it gets really light at dark, you should be worried then.
His coaching on Saturday was about as bad as I've seen. They had that game won. They should have won it. They couldn't coach themselves out of a paper bag. He's making $4 million, disappointing everybody in Fayetteville and in the state of Arkansas. She's making $500,000, doing a whole lot more than he is. You know why she's making $500,000 and he's making $4 million? Because she's having to pay every staff member. He's not having to pay anybody. Now, they do give back $30,000 per player, but the revenue, and the Red Cross has no revenue except for what people will give them. They're not selling anything. They don't have tickets. You You don't buy a ticket to a disaster, right? You don't go, oh.
Well, I mean, if you go by the Forbes article,
Puerto Rico.
I mean, they're getting back over $200,000. They're probably getting back her salary on the star athlete in return.
Right.
As far as
right. I mean, the Red Cross doesn't get to sell seats to the next disaster. Like, Harvey's getting hit Texas. We're going to sell front row seats for $100 a seat to watch houses getting flooded. Right. I know that's absurd, but it isn't absurd in the sense that they have no revenue. So it's patently crazy how we're valuing things in this country. And so, to me, the best the NCAA could ever do was to say, "No, here's the deal. It's even more unfair. The NCAA limits what an athlete can make or get for playing football, right? That's what they do. Get me through on this.
Mm-hmm.
But they say, oh, well, we can't limit what a coach can make. That's total bull, Matthew. You're limiting one, not the other. Why can't they just say, we're going to cap coaches' salaries at $1 million? Or we're going to limit coaches' salaries at X times the tuition rate at your school. We're limiting the players.
You know what? Here's the thing: is I don't care to have people's income potential capped. I'm happy that the coaches make $4 million. I hope they make $10 million. If they're willing to pay it, if the school's willing to pay it, and they're willing to do the job, they should get paid it. If that's what it's people are getting paid, that's the going rate for mediocrity is $4 million a year. Then that's the going rate. But my argument is if we're gonna pay coaches for mediocrity $4 million a year, then if Allen, your quarterback Allen, wants to monetize his likeness through a shoe deal, some sort of apparel deal outside of school. Again, obviously those are multi-million-dollar contracts. They give them apparel so they wear it. So I can understand the conflict in apparel where they would say, oh, you can't do apparel, where they could dictate where they could do, because the school already has that. Again, the NFL has that too. You can't wear anything but Bose headphones out to walk the field. So I get that. So if you want to have your deal outside, you just don't bring that to the field.
But if I'm on the cover of EA Sports College Football 2017, I'm Lamar Jackson, I should get paid for that.
Yeah. Assuming
I'm Lamar Jackson.
Assuming that's what's negotiated
you want to put
for your likeness. Sometimes there's a lot of times. So in the magazine industry, there's a lot of times you'll see people on the cover. You're like, oh, they're on the cover. What a lot of people don't know is they paid the magazine company to put them on the cover. It's not always the magazine company paying for it. I mean, I know, like, for example, real estate magazines. And for those of you looking at new homes, like,
it's a different.
I know, it's a different business model. But I'm just saying there are times where it's sometimes it's the individual or company it's paying to be on the cover.
Right.
It's not always the publication that's
like
paying.
vanity stuff.
Yeah. And not all publications pay people to contribute either.
Yeah. But I'm looking at the cover of Lindy Sports. Okay, this was the college football national 2017 preview, and I'm looking at the cover of this publication, and there is Jarius Goose from LSU and Austin Allen from University of Arkansas. Neither one of these guys, I'm pretty sure, neither one of these guys got anything from this publication monetarily. And I'm sorry, that is wrong. I paid $8.99 for this publication, and they got squat, and that is patently wrong.
All right, so just so people can see, I'm holding up one issue here. 2017 college football preview. Sports Illustrated. Jalen Hurts. Just what you were talking about. This is Streets and Smith. I've never read this one, but I got this instead of Lindsay's. Usually I get the one that you have, but I got Streets and Smith. I wanted to see what it was up to. But as you can see,
which I like Street. By the way, I've been reading Street and Smiths for 40 years, 40 years. Okay, great publication.
I like it.
They do a good job. They do a good job.
And then my favorite,
that's Lindy's, by the way.
My personal favorite, Phil Steele for college football preview.
Yeah,
he's
Phil Steele,
clearly the most accurate over 3 decades. I mean, a lot of players from Quentin Flowers to Kendrick Norton to David Reese to DeAndre Francois.
Yeah.
I mean,
Phil Steele's top, right? I mean, those guys are all the top of the business. You're talking about the top, publications. So, no question.
And those are the previews that I looked at before the season. They don't get paid there. But the most current issue of Sports Illustrated with Dwight Howard on the front, I don't know that he got paid either. That's the tough part about publications. They don't necessarily, always pay the athlete. Sometimes it's a negotiation. It's a trade-off between the publication and their representative to get that athlete to do a story. And then the representation has to spin it to the athlete how this is helping your brand or image. There's a whole sale process.
Well, that's fine. Yeah, but that's fine if you're a professional. Because you can market, you can bank off the fact that you on the cover of Sports Illustrated. And you can get endorsement deals and make money off it. If I'm Austin Allen or Darius Goose, I can't even benefit from the fact that I was on the cover of the magazine. I can't even go, hey, look, I'm on the cover of this magazine.
Yeah.
Give me something for it. Or, I can't even benefit from the publicity generated by the fact that I was on the cover of the magazine. I mean, I'm looking at the front of the latest Sports Illustrated, at least the last one I have, is this is the Hunt kid from Kansas City. He had that great night, that great opening night, and he could probably get a car dealership to give him a car, and he can go on TV in Kansas City and go, hey, buy a car at Smith Ford or whatever. These guys can't even benefit from their own fame of being on the cover of Lindy Sport, and that's what I have a problem with. They're being exploited, Matthew. There's no way you can convince me there's not exploitation at the highest level, and that's what's happening because they can't even do what the other guy does, and there's no difference in terms of their fame, notoriety, except they're being constrained by an artificial system. That's what I'm saying. That's my point.
Mm-hmm.
Is how can you do that? How can you tell somebody they can't make money off themselves, their own accomplishments? It makes no sense to me. It makes no sense.
It doesn't.
You figured it out long ago, right? Because all of a sudden you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, right? Michael Phelps is a millionaire. He's quote unquote an amateur athlete when it comes to he's not getting paid to swim in the Olympics, right? That's not where his money comes from. Nobody's paying him to swim in the Olympics. He's not getting paid for that event. And that's the same deal with the college guys. They're not getting paid to play in that game.
Yeah.
But they should certainly be able to benefit from their own success.
We're definitely in agreement on that. I think the only thing that we've kind of debated on there is how do we get to it. But kind of changing gears a little bit, we saw some big games this past week. What do you think of Penn State and Shaquan Barkley as probably the top running back in the country?
That guy's like, you know. Well, I think back to the running backs I've seen in my lifetime. Right, you're talking about at college, and I'm going back to the 70s, 80s, whatever. I'm going back to Earl Campbell and Herschel Walker and Barry Sanders and Thurman Thomas and those kind of guys. Well, that guy's something special. He really is. I mean, this kid has it. He's got the speed, the moves, we'll see how they do against Michigan because that's we'll see what they go. We've seen this season where in college football, where the good defense all of a sudden can stop that kind of guy, right? I mean, and obviously, but he did against a really good defense. I mean, Iowa has a good defense. They're not quite as good as they've been in the past, but you're a Big Ten guy, and you're a Big Ten West guy because it's Nebraska. Iowa's defense is usually pretty stalwart, and he just showed them up. So yeah, I'm pretty impressed with him. He's of all the guys. I just saw a little bit of that game. I was actually up in Branson, Missouri this weekend with my wife. We took a little getaway and played some golf. I didn't watch quite as much football as I usually do, but I did see some highlights of that. That guy's special.
Yeah, I watched bits and pieces of it, and the highlights of it is just like I don't know. If I was handing someone a Heisman Trophy today, it'd be him. If I had to hand somebody,
and he has, and he'll have the benefit. You win the Heisman Trophy because you play really well in the big games, and last year, Lamar Jackson totally took Florida State apart, and then even in a loss against Clemson, I mean, they scored 30-some points against Clemson. He looked fantastic. That was a great game, and so this kid has a chance. They still have Ohio State and Michigan to play, right? So he has a chance to really, stand out. Now, he could also stub his toe. I mean, Michigan could stuff him just like Clemson stuffed Lamar Jackson last week.
Mm-hmm.
We could see, but he has a chance, and you have to have those national games, even though there's 40 games on every week. You have to have that opportunity, and he'll have that opportunity, which will, I think, give him a chance to win the Heisman, especially since Jackson, didn't play that well against Clemson, rebounded last week in their game. But Darnold, even though USC is still undefeated, hasn't looked great. Josh Rosen's lost a couple, so forget him.
The funny thing is, I think Sam Darnold seems to be the difference because where they're getting the wins is in the second half, usually off comebacks that he's orchestrating, it seems like. So he seems to be the catalyst for their victories. So if you're looking at, again, I don't think you're going to look. I've never understood why a lot of times where they look at point differentials and the wins, because a lot of that comes in garbage time to crap teams. So if you take away statistics from garbage time, like they do in fantasy sports, sometimes the statistics you see for a lot of the, I mean, there's been guys that have 200 and some yard games against nobody's schools, like directional schools.
Yeah, I know where you're going with it.
So, but I think
because Darnold has delivered in crunch time. I mean, I think where you're going with this is Darnold has delivered in crunch time, right? I mean, and all their games have been kind of close. I mean, they won pretty convincingly over Stanford, but you got the overtime win over Texas. You have the close win over Western Michigan. You have this week against Cal. And by the way, Cal, really good football team. I mean, that's a team that's way beyond anybody's expectations. And so, yeah, I agree. I think Darnold's done it when he has to. And at the end of the season, that schedule's going to look really tough when they get done with the end of the season. Because, I mean, Western Michigan was 13-0 last year, if I remember correctly. They rolled into New Year's Day Bowl and lost a close one. Stanford rebounded this week to beat UCLA pretty convincingly. So I think that's going to look as a pretty good win. And so Texas probably by the end of the year is going to be a bowl team. They're probably going to be pretty good. They're going to surprise some people in the Big 12. So yeah, I think that I agree with you. I think you're looking at Darnold and going, they haven't blown teams out, but he's delivered. I mean, they're still undefeated, right? I mean, and so they're still in the hunt. And right now, when you look at the South in the Pac-12, Utah's not as good as they were, and Colorado won it last year, but I think USC has solidified themselves as the team to beat in the South. Now they have
Oregon just took a loss to Arizona State.
That was a surprise to me. I mean, I'd obviously picked I'd picked Oregon. I mean, Oregon. Willie Taggart's did a good job up there reestablishing that, but Arizona State, Todd Graham's job's on the line, and they've done a pretty good job of running the ship there. I think that was a big win for them this weekend, and so that's going to be Arizona State is going to give USC some fit, I think, because their defense is playing better. When you beat Oregon, and Oregon has been on fire, they beat your team. It was a close when Nebraska came back, but the first half of that game, Oregon just absolutely pummeled the Cornhuskers. So but Huskers got to win this week. They got to win back. That wasn't pretty, but they got another win back. So we'll see. But so I'm going to ask you about this. So then you ask you about. So Nebraska fired their AD.
Yep.
The guy that hired Mike Riley, how worried should Mike? And we had the guest on last week. Your guy from Nebraska. That was a great interview, by the way.
Greg Smith from Hale Varsity.
Greg Smith. Yeah. I mean, how hot is Mike Riley's seat now that the AD got canned? I mean, it's got to be hot.
Obviously. I don't think there was a ton of people that were, like Greg was saying, Mike Riley was kind of a out of nowhere pick. Now, they did name a guy that I am familiar with, that I do have some conversations with. I wouldn't say he's a friend, more of acquaintance. They did name Dave Remington as the interim athletic director for the University of Nebraska in the wake of firing the previous athletic director. So he's a good businessman. He has a good head on his shoulders. Again, another former Husker. Played in the league for
Outland Award-winning center. Outland Award-winning center, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So
I wish I had time to take care of my portfolio, but
I think he's was an admirable choice for interim. So we'll see where it goes from there. Again, I don't know if there's any interest in him being there long term, but again, it's just waiting to see where things go there. I'd have to go back and look, but he from what I remember, hasn't been too boisterous on the outing of the coaching staff. Yeah, I have to go back and check. None of the conversations that I've had with him have been he needs to go. It's, more critical on
Friday night
on the field.
So Friday night, the Huskers are at Illinois. They should win that game. Illinois is okay, but not great. I think they should win that game.
They should.
Then you got Wisconsin and Ohio State. Okay.
Yeah.
So you got Wisconsin and Ohio State back to back at home. Can you go 1-1 there? I don't know. I'm not sure you can split those. I mean, that's And then the rest of the season, though, at Purdue, home against Northwestern, at Minnesota, those should be 3 wins. At Penn State and home against Iowa, the last 2 games of the season.
I'm not confident that they can beat Wisconsin, Ohio State, or Purdue.
I mean, this is looking like maybe not even a bowl team, right? Because the schedule is brutal.
Yeah. So 2 losses. Illinois, let's say Illinois win, lost to Wisconsin, lost to Ohio State, lost to Purdue, close game those are going to be close games against Northwestern and Minnesota the way things look, and probably another 2 more losses to Penn State and Iowa. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That puts them at 7 losses. They might not be bowl eligible.
Which means out of a bowl game. No bowl game. Which means Mike Wiley's gone. New AD. Bring your new coach in. So I've seen things about maybe Scott Frost coming in.
Yeah. Okay. Coach, so
fiery guy.
So some of the more influential or boisterous, whatever you want to call them, former Huskers alums like Jason Peter, just to name one, is a big advocate of Trev Alberts, who is the current athletic director at the University of Nebraska, Omaha. Some really good things there. Bringing him over from UNO to UNL. The funny thing is, actually, Dave doesn't live too far from there. I think he lives like in between Lincoln and Omaha. But if you go from Lincoln to Omaha, it's like a 35-minute drive anyway. So most people that live in cities make that commute anyways. So it's not a big deal to drive 30 minutes to work. And with a position like that, you're not necessarily coming in every day. You can do a lot of stuff from your home office. I'm sure they can do that or work that in. But either way. And then approaching Scott Frost as a new coach, Scott Frost. I think what they want to do is to go back to core people that are coaching that are alumni, as well as people that understand what it is to win a national title. And Scott Frost was the last quarterback for the University of Nebraska to win a national title. He was actually the quarterback in the year that Tom Osborne retired. So he was the last quarterback for
98, right? 98, 90, 97?
98, yeah.
97. Yeah. Yeah.
So
20 years, dude.
Yeah. It's been 20 years. And then when they played Miami, I don't even think that Nebraska belonged in that game. I think that was more politics, knowing that people were going to watch it. There was more of a draw for Nebraska to be in that game than maybe some of the other schools.
Yeah.
So, but I don't think many teams would have put up a big fight against Miami that year anyways. They were just so skilled and stacked.
No, that was...
Again, that was a tremendous year.
What was that 2000, 2001?
Yeah.
When was that? 2000?
Yeah, 2001, 2002.
Yeah, 2001. Yeah.
And again, Scott Frost or
that was
Eric Crouch won the Heisman that year, so they wanted to kind of push the Heisman winner in the national championship.
By the way, that was the last time Miami has been relevant. I mean, I'm an ACC guy, and you keep looking at Miami ranked 13th, 14th. If they do the ACC, they've done nothing. They've not even won a division title.
Yeah, they haven't. Yeah, they haven't done anything.
So I'm still not sold on them. I mean, and now they put a hurt on a good Toledo team on Saturday, so I'll give them that. They unleashed it in the second half. I picked Miami to win the game. I just thought it would be a little bit closer than that. So Miami, we'll see how they're doing. They have the disadvantage of having to miss a couple of games because of Irma. They had to reschedule their game against Florida State until week after next. So we'll see how good they are. Florida State obviously isn't performing very well, although NC State's pretty good. So we'll see.
Yeah, I picked
Florida,
NC State to win that
dynamics. Yeah, I didn't. I thought it'd be really close. I just thought Florida State might. And I watched some of that game. I think the real problem there is that Blackman had no chance to get a warm-up game. If they'd been able to play that ULM game, I think Blackman would have a chance to get his feet under him, and he didn't. And NC State's good enough that they took him out of his game. That was a good game by NC State. So that was a good pick. I waffled on that. That was a coin flip on my part. I just thought that Florida State's athleticism might win the day, and it didn't. They just couldn't seem to overcome that deficit. They gave it a good shot, but it was that's one of the few games I watched this weekend. So
I don't think a lot of people realize that they have 0 wins this season. They're 0-2.
Yeah, they're 0-2. And by the way, NC State, that Atlantic is it's a little bit wide open because
Duke.
Clemson plays Virginia Tech this week. Duke's on the other side. Duke's in Coastal.
Are they Coastal?
But yeah, they're Coastal. But NC State could make some noise, could do some damage in that. They've already beaten Florida State. Clemson plays Virginia Tech this week, and that's my team. If the Hokies, and there's a chance we could pull out an upset in this game. We're 7-point underdogs. You get Clemson with 1 loss. NC State already beaten Florida State. Louisville with a loss against Clemson. That Atlantic can be wide open. An upset or two here or there. So there's some good teams in that half of the Atlantic Coast Conference. The Coastal's wide open. Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech, Virginia went up to Boise and beat the crap out of Boise State last Friday night. That was a beatdown. That was crazy. UNC's not very good, but yeah, Duke's 4-0. Okay, Wake Forest actually on the other side of the league in the Atlantic, they're going to beat somebody. Matthew, mark my word, they're going to beat one of those top teams in the Atlantic because their defense is relentless, and so watch out for Wake Forest in the ACC. They're going to beat somebody. And now, if it's Florida State, it won't make a difference because Florida State's they're pretty much out of it. We'll have to see if they can revamp, but we'll see. That'll be a good league to watch the rest of the season. So,
Yeah.
So I've got to check out here, man. It is my calling out time, so I got to check out. So it's been great. Hopefully we'll talk about the Clemson Virginia Tech game next week. Because
all right.
hopefully the Hokies will
we'll take a look at LSU too, because I
miraculous.
know a lot of people sold heavily on LSU after one loss to Mississippi State. So I don't know. I'll see where they go.
Who then got beaten pretty badly by Georgia. The SEC is very interesting this year. You know,
college football is interesting this year. It seems
down.
like there's a lot of parity this year.
A lot of parity. In fact, I was talking to Lou Vickery on our show on last Friday, and Lou even mentioned how much parity there is in college football. I mean, I expect to see a lot more crazy upsets. I mean, Oklahoma beating Ohio State, and then what about TCU beating Oklahoma State last week? I mean, Oklahoma State was on fire. Yes, I fully expect to see 4 one-loss teams and maybe a 2-loss team in the playoff. We'll have to see. But
don't be surprised.
I mean, right?
Iowa State beats Texas.
Is that this week?
That's this week at Iowa State.
Wow.
They took.
Oh, that's a tough place to
They
play.
They only lost to Iowa by 3.
Yeah, Iowa State's actually pretty good. I mean, they've got a team, so we'll see. So, all right, man. Well, I will talk to you next week. We'll be in touch in the meantime. So.
All right, sounds good. Kevin Gress, ladies and
gentlemen. All right, man. Out of here. Okay.
All right. It's a lot. That's the thing is, like, people keep saying that football is just unwatchable. I don't know. I've never really struggled watching football anywhere. I'll watch arena football, Canadian football. I don't care. I'll just watch. I just like football, you know. It's never been an issue for me. Now, some of the – let me get back over here to the schedules and stuff. Again, that game is Thursday night as well. Also, to kind of get some people to get you understanding. So Miami plays Duke Friday. Nebraska plays Illinois Friday, which is weird. BYU plays Utah State, and Southern Cal plays Washington State, all on Saturday. So various stations, they're all televised games. Looks like all of them are on ESPN except for Nebraska's on FS1, and BYU and Utah State are on CBS SN. But that will be definitely some Nebraska, Illinois. I will watch, obviously, for obvious reasons. Miami Duke should be a really interesting game. If Duke wins this game, they'll be ranked next week. I'm surprised, kind of, they're not ranked already after, beating Northwestern, beating Baylor, and North Carolina. Again, that's 3 of their 4 wins. So it's kind of interesting that they're not ranked just yet. However, so Miami Duke, interesting game. SC Washington State. Again, those are 2 games of battles of unbeatens. Northwestern has taken Ohio State and Wisconsin down to the wire. Northwestern plays Wisconsin, 12 o'clock game, ABC, watch ESPN. That's a game to watch. Florida Vanderbilt was a really close game last year. That's another 12 o'clock game on ESPN as well. Houston Temple. I don't think it's going to be that close of a game, but it's at Temple, and Temple has just been one of those teams where you don't know. Maryland and Minnesota. Maryland looks like they're starting to field a football team, and And Minnesota has been kind of that team as well. So it could be an interesting watch if you're in a regional area and you want to look for something to watch, stuck in an airport, something like that. Tennessee and Georgia. Now, this is a game, Tennessee and Georgia, that I think is interesting for the fact that it's kind of seeing, is Tennessee going to lose their head coach? Because if they lose to Georgia as well, that could very much be so. But also, this is to see if Georgia is for real. I mean, Georgia is coming off beating Mississippi State. So, again, it seems like right after a big win of somebody that they thought was, the SEC thought was, hey, that's our second best team, they lose the next week. So, Tennessee and Georgia. Again, that's a 3:30 game. It's over on CBS. Florida State, Wake Forest. Kevin said take a look at it because he thinks Wake Forest is going to beat somebody this year. Again, that game is actually it's in Winston-Salem, so it's at Wake Forest. So 3:30. Baylor, Kansas State. I just have Kansas State winning there. Pull up a couple other ones here. As far as we got Mississippi State and Auburn, kind of taking a look at two programs there that are kind of in the upper echelon of the West for the SEC. They're going to just start cannibalizing each other. Virginia Tech, Clemson. It's 8 o'clock, ABC. Washington plays Oregon State. Oklahoma State, Texas Tech. Alabama, Ole Miss. Now, Ole Miss has won 2 of the last 3 years against Alabama. Now, the game that I'm interested in, that I'll watch, it's a West Coast game. It's San Diego State is hosting Northern Illinois, who just beat Nebraska in Lincoln. So how did they come off that win against Nebraska, and was what they did, can that translate over to beating San Diego State? That's the case. They may have more of an argument there. And then another late game I'm going to watch is Oregon and Cal. Cal is one of those teams that their defense has gotten better, and I think that's what has helped them win. They're holding opponents. I mean, even look at this. Ole Miss, the 16. NC State scored 30, but everybody else has scored 20 or less. They held Southern Cal to 20 points last week in a loss. But it was a close game. It was theirs to win. Sam Darnold did a good job of bringing them back. So this week is against Oregon. Like I said, it's a 10:30 game. They will be going up to Eugene. That game will be over on FS1. So that's another game, late game I'm going to watch. I have Oregon winning that one in a game that's much closer than it should be. So, how much time we got left here? And I'm going to circle over to the NBA now. For those of you, just yesterday. Was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday. Dwayne Wade agreed to the buyout. He roughly left $8 million of his $23.8 million contract on the table to get out of Chicago and become an unrestricted free agent. They agreed upon it. Like I reported,
90 seconds.
There's been multiple teams. And again, if you want to call in, 347-237-5539, you can still call in. You got like 30 seconds. So to call in if you want. 347-237-5539. My bet was he was going to Cleveland. Now, the Thunder showed interest. A lot of media people were leaning towards OKC.
60 seconds.
Some were saying Pat Riley was back in his year. He's potentially going back to Miami. And some people, mainly media in the Northeast, thought Boston was going to be the place he went. He did sign today, and I did notify everybody today that he was in the final stages of finalizing the details of his contracts with the Cavs. He did that, and I believe it was 1 year for 2.3 or 2.8 million. So it's obviously he's doing it because he's interested in winning another title. For the same reasons that, I listened to Melo today. I thought it was hilarious. One of the reporters said, "Oh, what do you think about how are they going to utilize you? You play mainly a three, but you have several threes. Are you going to be playing a four, or are they going to have you, or have they talked to you about coming off the bench?" And he fell out laughing. He's like, "Hey, they got me coming off the bench." Carmelo Anthony would not come off the bench. Media people that cover basketball, as far as the positions, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, or as you know, as it traditionally is point, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, and center, aren't really honored anymore. They field talent based on their skill set, and they put them out on the court. Let that soak in for a second. I'm going to say it again. What we call traditionally as positions: point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center. It's still kind of used, but for the most part, the positions really aren't utilized in their traditional way anymore. They will field the talent based on their skill set at various times during the game. Carmelo Anthony is not going to do much different than what he did in New York. Carmelo Anthony is a few years from retirement. The guy wants to try to win a ring. He is still Carmelo Anthony. He now is in a position where he doesn't have to score the bulk of the points every night. That's what attracted him. And the Midwest atmosphere, the fact that OKC has this wonderful college energetic type atmosphere, very appealing. Some people say, "Oh, what's there to do in OKC?" Whatever there is to do in OKC. But you know what? Half of the games of the season are not in OKC. That's 41 games. There's 41 games that are not in OKC. So that's the West Coast. So that means that he'll be in Dallas. He'll be in San Antonio. He'll be in Houston. He'll be in Los Angeles. He'll be in Phoenix. Do we keep going? Keep going? I mean, he goes to Chicago. He'll go to New York again. He'll go to Miami. He'll go to Orlando. I mean, we can't sit here and kid ourselves thinking that, he doesn't want to live there. He's going to work there. Maybe he ends his career there. Maybe he doesn't. But he's going to work there. He wants to try to win a title. He has homes in Los Angeles and in New York. He said in the press conference today that His family's still in New York. They're still located in New York, even though they have their summer stuff in Los Angeles. Now, other reports. Dwayne Wade, again, signs a 1-year deal. They have uncertainty with Isaiah Thomas, again, on the last year of his deal. And now they're going to be looking at LeBron, again, can opt out and be done. Sources have in the NBA have said he is leaving Cleveland for sure. And not only is he leaving Cleveland for sure, it's for the Lakers for sure. He was just disappointed that this past year that they hadn't risen to the point where they seemed somewhat competitive, because he doesn't want to be in the middle of a rebuild. He wants to jump into something that's competitive. Paul George is on the last year of his deal. Melo has a couple more left. And so does West. Whether George stays there or not, we don't know. We won't know. He's in a good situation, it looks like right now. We'll see where they go. But the trade was huge. They made it happen. Melo's out of New York. New Yorkers have one less thing to complain about for now. Now, on the other side of it, we have Dwayne Wade going to Cleveland. Just adds more there. He's not going to be able to play all the games. He's not going to be playing at the level people are used to. He's veteran depth. Excuse me. He's veteran depth at this point. So not too high of expectations there. I can't be too worried about it. But it does make for talk. It does make for interesting conversation. I'll have something out later this week on it. So as some new stuff becomes available as well. As far as the NFL goes, I'll touch on it briefly. Again, tonight's going to be a shorter show. So let me get into some of the bigger matchups this week. Is this week 4 now? Yeah, there we go. So that's weird. Now with Jacksonville playing the way that they have, their only loss coming into the Titans, they obviously have a great chance to win this week against the Jets. They go to the Jets this weekend. Why is gave me preseason? ESPN, your stuff's all jacked. Thursday night game this week is, yeah, that's right, Chicago is traveling to Green Bay. Chicago has been kind of surprising this week. They've been remarkably in games. They beat the Steelers. They could have beat the Falcons. And at one point in time, no point in time. At no point in time did it look like they were going to beat Tampa. But the Falcons was a winnable game, and they beat the Steelers. And the Steelers had a kumbaya moment. Oh, by the way, I just wanted to share an update. I'm not going to get into the whole protest. I really don't want to. I feel like it's been talked about ad nauseum. And, free speech is free speech. Whether you like what they say or don't, it's free speech. It's their First Amendment right. And your rights to disagree with them. So, it is what it is, Silent protests, peaceful protests are allowed as part of freedom of speech. The same way as companies are allowed to donate money as a part of free speech. So, those are how it's set up. You may not like it. I may not like it. But that's how it's set up. Those are the rules. Those are the laws. You can't limit it. You can't. They got their free speech. What can I say? Would you agree with it or not? Now, Steelers lineman last week was Alejandro Villanueva, who did 3 tours of Afghanistan, ended up in the tunnel, not on the field. Again, it made it seem as the reports were as he broke away from the team's decision to not leave the locker room and go to the field. He went out. He got trapped out there. He wasn't able to go back in before the game started. So he had to wait in the tunnel. And, of course, he respected the flag and the anthem there and put his hand over his heart, and which would roughly have been the same thing he would have done in the locker room. Again, it wasn't something he had planned to do, but it ended up that way. And because of that look, his jersey sale, he was the top selling jersey in the NFL last week from that alone, by far. Again, he came out yesterday and basically was like, hey, I didn't mean to go stand away from my team. I was going to stay solid with my team. They wouldn't let me back in. So I don't know if that means people are going to burn jerseys or take them back, but that's what he said. All right. Some people want me to get into boxing for this week. Actually, I'm not going to get into boxing. Some people were asking still about. I do have a podcast. I did a quick podcast of the scores on Triple G and Canelo. Again, that was 2 weeks ago. Not going to get back into that.
What brings you here?
You okay, Dad?
Yeah, that's pretty much all. I'm going to wrap it up there for this week. Hope y'all have a great evening. I do want to do this. Shout out to Brenda and also Edwin Santana for the effort that they've made from the time on the 20th the hurricane hit to the 24th. So they actually only did in 3 days, from the 21st to the 24th. They were able to organize people to get over 1 million pounds of donations for relief to be sent on planes with FEMA to Puerto Rico. If you are looking to donate, look no further than the Red Cross. From what I've talked to people in Puerto Rico, I'm going to highlight on this, and I'm going to close with this. You can make your donations in person. Now, just keep in mind, yes, money is a good way to do it. But keep in mind here, if you're on an island that doesn't have any cargo ships, the port is limited, the air traffic, they still don't have radar. So cargo planes are limited to 1 per day, only during the daytime, and they're 11 hours behind schedule per flight. Extremely backed up. So no port, no boats, no planes, no goods. So sending money to buy so they can buy things is a good gesture, but I'm just telling you right now, I don't want to discourage you from donating money to the Red Cross to provide aid. Do that. They'll get aid there. But if you're donating to an organization that has to then give money to people to go buy things, there's nothing to buy. They've been without power since the 19th, 20th. And also, so people were wondering, and I've had a lot of people ask, how does Puerto Rico, whole island, lose power? Well, I can tell you this from people I've talked to and from reports I've heard from the governor's office and people who are part of the energy department there. The power plants, one of the particular power plants that is actually on the southeast side of the island, which pretty much took a direct hit from a Category 4 Hurricane Maria, is in working shape. So the power plants are fine. Very little damage. What happened is their power grid is decades outdated. Decades, plural, outdated. And the storm basically blew over or ripped out, they said, up to 90%, if not all, of the existed power lines. Now, for those of you that don't understand Puerto Rico, yes, it's a small island. It's, only a few hours drive from one end to the other. It's not very big. It's really not. But it's mountainous. Has a lot of hills. And that makes it very difficult to run power lines. Now, it's very expensive and comes at a high risk of failure to fix them. So while they're still finishing up on some of the assessments for business and residential power, they are looking at ways to rebuild the power grid, which presents a new problem. When you're $9 billion insolvent, in the negative, and the Puerto Rico Energy Department is bankrupt, it's very tough to buy and build something new. So one of the struggles that the island has had keeping its independence is the power is through public options. But now it's looking more and more like privatized options are going to have to come in. And it could be a good thing because infrastructurally that's an improvement. It could also create competition, which could bring pricing down. So there could be a lot of positives that come from it. Do they lose that bit of independence in a way? I guess you could say so. But in the long run, it doesn't say you can't have public power. And you'd just be competing with public power. So, again, you get another horse in the race, the odds change. You're not betting usually so much on one horse. There's 3 horses in the race. So they have to jockey for position and competition. So the way they charge could possibly affect that for the citizens on the island. Now, I also understand that there's going to be more push for agricultural means. It's tough because it's mountainous. It's what I understand they don't do as much. However, mountainous regions, trees and fruits and stuff are habitable there, so they're going to look at how can they increase their agricultural output. So if you are a student at an agricultural school, reaching out to the university or reaching out to the island of Puerto Rico might be a very good option. 2 schools I know are good ag schools, the University of Nebraska and the University of Florida. Both have good agricultural departments there that I know of. So if you are at one of those schools, reaching out to Puerto Rico might be advantageous. Just throwing it out there. Right now, almost all fruit is imported from primarily the Dominican Republic. So it's going to, obviously, some of that stuff is going to change. A new problem that has been presented infrastructurally, there's a dam. There's a lake dam that is, can't remember the name off the top of my head, but it's in the northwest side of the island. And there's tens of thousands of people that would be affected if this dam fails. So they've had to order evacuations. So now people that have been ravaged by a hurricane have been without power and water for, is it a week now? Been a week? Today is 26, so 6 days, almost a week. So tomorrow will be 1 week. I can tell you, it's no fun without being without power and water as much as you prepare. I did that because Irma took out my power and water for a week, but I'm in Florida, so I can just drive somewhere that has power or goods or fuel. When you're on an island, you're kind of limited on where you can drive. Also, you're limited on how people can bring things in. In those efforts that were made in Tampa, there were several forklifts which were in very high demand, that were sent over. I saw several generators that were donated, lots of clothes. They said some over 40,000 gallons of water easily. And that was before 2 panel trucks full of bottled water pulled up. It was just a beautiful thing to see how much I bring in several cases of bottled water, and they said they needed plastic, like they needed plates and like utensils. So I bring in a bunch of that as well, and help get it a little organized, and was able to walk around. Also, they don't have things for elderly people, walkers, canes, stuff like wheelchairs. It's a very short supply. Pets. There's clearly a lot of pets. If you're somebody that wants to rescue an animal, I'm sorry to say this, but they're kind of in a situation without power and water at the local humane societies there. They're getting to the position where they're going to have to, or will choose to, start putting animals down. Again, without resources, it's very tough to maintain services. Again, the number one driver of the economy in Puerto Rico is tourism. There's no power and no water. There's no tourists. They've been a week without it. And again, even days before that, tourism slowed or stopped because of the impending storm that was coming. And then the week before that, don't forget, they had Irma dealing with. So now at this point, they're going on close to a month without any sort of substantial income coming into the island from tourism. No supplies. That could mean no businesses, even if you have a generator, which jails, hospitals, running off generators. The airport is running off a generator. So if you have too many businesses focused on running off generators, that creates a new problem with a fuel crisis. Again, it's tough to get planes and ships into the island still. The port's only open during the day because of debris and things that are still in the water. So it's tough to maneuver. They have no radar at the airports. So the communication has to be very precise. People aren't lingering on taxiways. They're being taxied out once they know the airstrip is available for them. It's been tremendously complicated. They're saying 3 to 6 months without power. They're trying to push having most power back in 2 months to 3 months. 3 months being the max. But again, the estimate up to 6 months is simply because it's a lot of mountains, a lot of hills, valleys. There are roadways, literally roadways, that were washed away by the flooding and the storm. There's houses and buildings that don't exist. They have to be rebuilt. Everybody was displaced in some way in Puerto Rico, and everybody is continuing to be displaced because of no running water. There's no electricity. And the electricity that is there is limited to generators. So, I mean, I've been in contact with a few people there. Most of the people that I know there, they're all safe. It's just incredible what has to be done. The amount of cleanup, what they have to do to get life back to somewhat normal. I'm looking here just so people realize the amount of trees that fell down were substantially more fell down there than where I'm at. I was without power for a week, 1 week and an hour. And then on top of that, all those tree branches, palm fronds, and debris that they're going to pick up, that's still there. For me, the cleanup started the next day. I cleaned it up in a couple hours. Didn't stay. Neighbors around here over the course of the weekend, all the tree limbs and stuff have been picked up. But now they're all sitting there turning brown and killing the grass that they're sitting on. So I can imagine in Puerto Rico where there's so many. I saw today, was it Jackie? Let me, I'll check here on my Instagram real quick. I was conversating with Jackie Fontanes, and she works there she works in radio there. She's a digital journalist, but she goes to the gym I went to there, the Powerhouse Gym in Guaynabo, and there's just a video. Basically, all the trees around there just toppled over. Debris still in the parking lots. So it is not a pretty sight. I mean, where my daughter took ballet, and right near Santurce, which is a southern part of San Juan, it's flooded. All the streets underwater. You know, it's incredible. These are places that I lived. Places I went with my kids, my family. See them underwater or ravaged. And to think, and I remember when I was there, 2014, 2015, going through the worst drought the island had ever been in any recent time. And then on top of that, having to deal with the worst economic crisis they've had to deal with in their history, which I'm happy that they're working out a way to resolve their insolvency. But let's not forget they get ravaged in coastal areas by Irma, and then they got knocked out by Maria, and the hurricane season's not over yet. I mean, even before Irma had finished, they were already talking about Maria and the impending threat of Maria if she would be a Category 2. What? These storms have all strengthened so much in these warm waters of the Caribbean. Gotten all very strong. Yeah, it's heartbreaking. So definitely Red Cross, great way to get aid to Puerto Rico. Going to local places that are sending things. Check with your local Red Cross, your local FEMA, and other local people that are sending donations to Puerto Rico. I have sent for a couple years now. I know a lot of people see Venezuela stuff. I do send boxes to Venezuela as well. I sent one this past weekend. Some in aid, some to family. But again, Venezuela is in a different situation. But again, streaming sort of supplies and food and stuff like that as well. Literally, like, it's to the point. They're dealing with some of the problems that Puerto Rico is dealing with after a hurricane. And it's just because government taking control of things. Not having supplies. Like, imagine having to have your appendix removed, but you have to find gloves, apron, face masks, hairnet, boot covers, iodine, and supplies to do the surgery on yourself. Well, your doctor would do the surgery, but you have to find the supplies. You have to buy your own supplies and bring them with you to do the surgery. That's where Venezuela's at. Puerto Rico is in a situation where they have some supplies and some don't. Nursing homes were especially affected. Needing walkers, wheelchairs, elderly type things, adult diapers. There was a big push for diapers and baby wipes when I was there. Can never have too much of that. Can never have too much water. Formula, if something that was needed. Tools. Building supplies, hardware, stuff like that is in high need. Obviously, if you're going to be rebuilding and fixing things, you have to have the tools necessary. And a lot of places, they were lost due to the storm, or some of them are electric powered. So you have to use non-electric methods. And the supplies to buy them there just aren't there. So, but that's where I'm going to leave it at tonight. It was a little bit shorter show tonight than it has been other nights, but I hope y'all have a great night. Much love to all my people in Puerto Rico and throughout Florida that are rebounding from this. People in Mexico rebounding from the earthquake. I do have an article that I'll have out probably tomorrow on some of the aftermath and the effects of the NFL with these storms, how that's going to end up playing out. I'll have something up for that tomorrow. But give aid where you can, pay it forward, help out with whatever you can. I mean, if you want to talk about patriotism, that volunteering and donating is the ultimate patriotic thing you can do, is giving something of you and representing for the better, for the greater good of humanity. That's the ultimate patriotic move. So y'all have a great night. I'm out.